This is Mac OS Ken.
Analyst reaction to Apple earnings, taking apart and breaking apart Apple's new headset, and the symbiotic relationship between Vision Pro and Meta Quest. It is Monday, the 5th of February, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. The needles didn't move much after Apple's first quarter fiscal year 2024 earnings call, though the ones that did not move in Apple's favor. Apple 3.0 ran parts of a number of notes written by analysts since last Thursday's earnings report and follow-up call. We'll start with the movers and shakers, though that is really an overstatement. Barclays analyst Tim Long dropped his 12-month price target on Apple shares. It was kind of weird, though. The Apple 3.0 piece linked to an article from the first of the year, wherein Long dropped his target and his rating on the shares. The rating is still the same, underweight, while the target was dropped from $160 to $158. The site TipRanks equates an underweight rating to a sell rating, though I found a couple of sites with more nuanced explanations. The site smartasset.com says an underweight stock rating is the opinion of a financial analyst that the stock will underperform other stocks in its market sector or in a market index, usually over the next 6 to 12 months. Meanwhile, a piece from the Motley Fool points out that an underweight stock, when compared to its own industry, may be an overweight or even weight stock when compared to the rest of its index, or vice versa. So, when you see that a stock you're holding is now underweight, you should ask yourself, compared to what? And if that comparison doesn't matter to your investment thesis, don't sweat it. So says the Fool. The only other move came from JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee. He got stuck on the thing that hung me up last week. The $5 billion Apple is encouraging analysts and investors to ignore at the end of the current quarter. On last week's call, Apple CFO Luca Maestri pointed out that the March quarter of 2023 saw Apple recover a lot of sales lost in the December quarter of 2022 due to COVID closures at iPhone factories. According to Maestri, Apple estimates that this impact added close to $5 billion to the March quarter's total revenue last year. When they remove this impact from last year's revenue, they expect both their March quarter total company revenue and iPhone revenue to be similar to a year ago. Yeah, that's great for story time, but Chatterjee's feeling seems to be that the numbers will still be the numbers, and besides, it's not all about that $5 billion iPhone. Putting aside the comparables, the analyst says, the key driver of the weaker outlook for the company in the March quarter relative to expectations, which has more reaching consequences to the outlook beyond the March quarter, is primarily the headwinds to Macs, iPads, and wearables. Sure, you can even out the iPhone numbers, and yes, you can expect services to see low double-digit growth, but the headwinds to iPad, Mac, and wearables, which he points out were down last quarter and are expected to be down again this quarter, those are the numbers impacting his firm's revision. Not that that revision was huge. He did drop his firm's 12-month price target on Apple shares from $225 to $210. Not horrid, considering Apple opens Monday at around $186. He's also kept his overweight rating on the company's stock. And nobody else moved a thing. Solid execution but uncertain handset environment keeps us on the sidelines was the headline over a note from Piper Sandler analyst Harsh Kumar. He's got a neutral rating on Apple shares and a price target of $190. Thinking along similar lines as Mr. Kumar was KeyBank analyst Brendan Nispel. While he was impressed with Apple beating on revenue and earnings per share, he says Apple is likely to be range-bound and perform in line with the Nasdaq at best. Hence his sector weight rating on the shares. He's got no stated price target on them. While Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives noted continued concern around the iPhone in China and Apple's conservative guidance, he also noted accelerating growth for Apple's installed base, the huge number of iPhones ripe for an upgrade, and an AI-driven iPhone 16, 17 in the crystal ball. He's got an outperform rating on Apple shares and a price target of $250. Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring noted some of the same stuff: the solid December quarter, the conservative guide for March, and a generative AI announcement possibly or probably at WWDC, saying that he and his are buying the post-earnings dip. Mr. Woodring has an overweight rating on Apple shares and a price target of $220, and now I want dip. B of A analyst Wamsi Mohan digs iPhone 15 strength, stronger than iPhone 14, he says. He also digs the phone's strength despite weakness in China. He's turned on by the blowout in gross margins, by Tim Cook's generative AI teases, and by interest from the enterprise in Apple Vision Pro. He's got a buy rating on Apple shares and a price target of $225. And the headline on the note from Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani: look past the March noise and focus on generative AI 2024 launch plus install base growth. He's got an outperform rating on Apple shares and a price target of $220. The road to Apple building its own modems for iPhones is apparently lengthened again. Mac Rumors ran a piece I missed midweek last week, announcing an extension of the modem deal between the Cupertino company and Qualcomm. During its December quarter earnings call last Wednesday, the chipmaker said its licensing deal with the iPhone maker has been extended. It now runs through March of 2027. iFixit has done exactly what I feared / knew it would do. A piece from Mac Rumors says the company, famed for taking things apart and, who knows, maybe putting them back together, has had its way with Apple Vision Pro. This they have shared in a written teardown and via video. According to iFixit, the Vision Pro is insanely ambitious. Yes, it's heavy, and the glass is fragile, and that tethered battery might get annoying, but Apple has managed to pack the power of a Mac, plus the performance of a new dedicated AR chip, into a computer that you can wear on your face. As for the reparability score, that is TBD. While the teardown noted some genuinely surprising choices by Apple that might be judge-friendly for the tinkering types, iFixit says it's got more diving to do. The company promises a follow-on post focusing on internal displays and sensor arrays. They will award a reparability score with that report. I gotta say, seeing Apple Vision Pro in pieces on the iFixit site is pretty heartbreaking. That said, I don't begrudge them that, as much as I begrudge the guy who bought an Apple Vision Pro to drop it on YouTube. He's got a fan base. Good for him. The video's got close to 500,000 views so far. Good for him. His less-than-scientific drop tests show a surprisingly durable device, according to a write-up of the video on Apple Insider. I rely on their write-up because I cannot watch this video. People could have used that device. Kids could have learned with that device. Feels like a flippin' waste. But he's probably made his ad money. His video has certainly been written up all over the place. Good for him. A little over a week ago, Upload BR ran a piece under the headline, Meta seems to be preparing to let you easily watch iPhone spatial videos on Quest. About a week later, a piece from Engadget said, that functionality is a go. According to the site, Meta Quest headsets are getting spatial video playback capabilities. Engadget indicates that users will be able to upload spatial video shot on iPhone 15 Pro or iPhone 15 Pro Max straight from the phone via the Meta Quest mobile app. Quoting the report, the content will be stored in the cloud and not on the headset to preserve all important hard drive space. Once uploaded, users will be able to relive precious memories over and over again. I kind of hate the part where my video would be stored on Facebook's cloud. One might be tempted, though, by not having to spend $3,500 at a bare minimum to see the video that they had shot in its full glory. There was another interesting headline last week from Mac Rumors that said, Meta hopes Apple Vision Pro will reinvigorate headset space. Already, there is reason to think that that might be happening. While one cannot say for certain that Apple Vision Pro was responsible, a piece from Upload BR says the launch of Quest 3 drove the highest ever Meta Reality Labs quarterly revenue, coming in at over $1 billion. Still lost more than $4 billion, according to a piece from Engadget, but let's accentuate the positive, as Upload BR does. While describing this as a loss is technically correct in a financial sense, says the site, in reality it's more accurate to describe most of it as a long-term investment. XR headsets like Quest are still a relatively early technology, far from maturity, and Meta hasn't even launched its first AR glasses yet. More than 50% of Reality Labs' spending is on the research and development of AR glasses. And can we just play for a minute? The Upload VR piece indicates that sales through Meta Reality Labs came out at $1.07 billion from October through December. Meta CFO Susan Lee told investors that that record revenue was driven by Quest 3 sales during the holiday season. That device launched a week and a half into the December quarter. Hearing all that, $1.07 billion does not sound bad. Then you get to this sentence from Upload BR. For comparison, it says, Apple has reportedly sold just over 200,000 Vision Pro pre-orders, equating to over $700 million in revenue. My immediate thought was, wow, is Facebook screwing the pooch? But there's pretty much no way Facebook could have launched a $3,500 headset and have anybody buy it. Now, there is a $3,500 headset on the mark, and it makes Meta devices look reasonable. The Mac Rumors piece I mentioned, the one about Apple Vision Pro reinvigorating headsets, it was based off a Wall Street Journal report that had Meta execs viewing Apple's entry into the market as a potential validation of CEO Mark Zuckerberg's AR/VR gamble that could draw more consumers into the headset space. According to the journal, employees at Meta see the Quest and its software ecosystem emerging as a primary alternative to Apple in the space, filling the role played by Google's Android in smartphones. That's kind of got to sting a bit, what with Quest and Oculus before it having been the driving force in VR for over a decade. Still, it feels like one could argue that without Oculus and the Meta Quest follow-ons, there would be less appetite for Apple Vision Pro. And yet, for people who can't afford to go to the Apple resort, there is a range of Meta devices. All of which are siphoning off user information, I'm sure. I mean, at its heart, it is still Facebook. But I'm not sure that Meta execs are wrong. Despite the usual Apple-Facebook standoff, there may be a sort of symbiosis for the two companies in this space. Now, you may be wondering whether I got to check out Apple Vision Pro over the weekend. Hey, I'm wondering the same thing about you. Did you try it? Did you buy it? I'm curious what you thought if you did, how the whole thing went for you. Send me an email, info@macosken.com, or leave me a voicemail, 716-780-4080. Mere minutes after slots open for demos on Friday morning, they all seem to be gone. Earliest I could get was today. Then I got a message from somebody indicating that all online reservations had been blocked until Monday, but I could get a reservation before then if I went to a physical store. Here's the thing, though. We had a busy weekend around the house. Plus, I knew when my Monday appointment would be, so I got a Monday appointment. This afternoon, I am going to my local Apple store for an Apple Vision Pro demo. I know I will not have a lot of time with it, but I will give you my impressions tomorrow and catch us up on other Apple news as well. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.